It's been quite some time since my last rodeo. In a literal sense. It's like a metaphor. Life is a rodeo. When you grab a bull by the horns, sometimes it'll take you for a ride. Enderlin was certainly a wild ride. That's an experience I'll never forget. It's still hard to believe that we actually experienced an EF5 tornado together. We can finally check that off our bucket list. I imagine it'll take years for Enderlin to fully recover. It takes a mighty effort to clean up and rebuild after a disaster like that. EF5s do tend to leave scars after all, both figuratively and literally. Even Joplin's scar is still visible to this day, and that tornado happened over 14 years ago at this point. So, now that the EF5 drought is finally over, another question arises. When will the next one happen? Yeah, the correct answer is, hopefully never. No one deserves to go through that. But ultimately, that isn't our choice to make. Humanity can't stop the whims of Mother Nature. If she decides to unleash hell again, then so be it. The best we can do is help each other. Show support from one person to another. Who knows? Maybe Enderlin was just a fluke and this is the beginning of another EF5 drought. The next one could happen in a week, a month, a year, a decade, or even longer. We can't possibly know. All we can do is wait and see. Here's a fun fact that you may not have known. Since the Enderlin tornado, the enhanced Fujita scale actually got updated. The National Weather Service added more damage indicators for both EF4 and EF5 tornadoes, so those ratings will be more lenient going forward since they'll have more to work with. This could potentially mean that other significant tornadoes that happen between Newcastle and Enderlin might actually get their ratings upgraded. Make no mistake, Enderlin is officially where the EF5 drought ended, since it's the first officially classified EF5 tornado that we've had since Newcastle. It just means that older tornadoes might get upgraded to EF4 or EF5. It's just something to keep in mind. Who knows? Maybe Greenfield will become an EF5, or Diaz, or Rolling Fork. It's anyone's guess. There's something I've noticed over the past year. Storm chasing is becoming more popular. This is probably due to the Twisters movie that released last year, which must have sparked some interest within newcomers of meteorology. And also the surge in online content related to storm chasing. This is a double-edged sword. On one hand, I'm glad more people are becoming interested in my favorite activity, but this also comes with the drawback of inexperience. I fear that we might have an El Reno situation on our hands eventually. I'm not talking about a future tornado that could potentially break the size record. I'm talking about what the El Reno tornado did. It took the lives of storm chasers on the job, which to my knowledge never happened before or after El Reno. But it could. Think about it. Let's say a group of storm chasers are chasing a tornado. An experienced group takes a more dangerous route to get better photos and footage because they know what they're doing. But a less experienced group follow them on this dangerous route because they don't know better. They just assume that it's wise to follow the experienced group. You see how that could become a deadly situation, right? I'm genuinely worried about people. Even I feel like I can take my job for granted sometimes. Like Enderlin. I never even considered the possibility that a tree might get in our way. I could have surveyed the area more thoroughly and tried to find a spot without trees to launch our rocket. You may not realize it since I'm the one driving all the time, but being a storm chaser is trickier than you think. There's a lot of factors that you have to consider, and failure to understand even one of those factors can mean the difference between life and death. Storm chasing is a lot of fun, but it's also one of the most dangerous things you can do. Hell, just look at these people in the arena right now. They're riding angry bulls that can seriously hurt them, and yet they chose to do this. They think it's fun. In the end, we aren't so different. They're bull wranglers and we're tornado wranglers. No matter which sport you pursue, you know you're living in the Wild West. Imagine if El Reno of all tornadoes got upgraded to EF5. Wouldn't that be crazy? It's such an old tornado at this point, and it really didn't do that much damage. It would be absurd to upgrade it after over a decade. Then again, it would placate all those people who say that it should have been an EF5 this whole time. But hey, it's not like I care. It's just food for thought. I still have much to learn about meteorology. I may be an expert, but I don't know everything. I never will know absolutely everything. I don't think anyone has perfect knowledge of anything. For example, there's a misconception about tornadoes that me and many others have believed for years. Even I told you this misinformation at one point. Tornadoes do happen less frequently in the mountains, that much is true, but it doesn't actually have much to do with mountains themselves. It's mostly within the atmosphere. The reason some people believe that tornadoes rarely happen in the mountains is because they assume that they need flat land to maintain a stable form. And while there is at least some truth to that, it's not actually that significant of a factor. What's most important are the weather conditions. If Vermont and Oklahoma swap places, Vermont would get vastly more tornadoes despite being the mountainous region. And you probably already know the reason. The Midwest is where you get the best mix of warm, moist air and cool, dry air. That's the main factor. It's not Vermont's fault that it just so happens to have a lot of mountains. It just doesn't have the ideal weather conditions for tornadoes. Of course, Oklahoma has a lot of flat land, but that's not even really that important. What matters is its position between the Gulf of Mexico and Rocky Mountains. The flat land is just a bonus. One of the most famous examples of a mountain tornado is the Great Barrington F4 in Massachusetts, Memorial Day 1995. Certainly a very rare type of tornado given its location. It's excellent proof that you can't always trust mountains to keep you safe. You know, honey, we really do have such interesting lives, don't we? To think, in a metaphorical sense, I was brought here by the wind. My interest in weather as a little kid growing up in Vermont is what brought us together. And look at you. You basically grew up in another world. You've been around tornadoes your whole life and just never really thought much of them until I came along. Maybe you could blame overexposure, but my presence has clearly had an impact on you. And from what I've seen, it's been an extremely positive impact. We're almost like polar opposites if you really think about it. Your life was shaped by tornadoes and mine was shaped by a lack of them. You lived around something that I didn't experience for much of my life. I guess opposites really do attract. This can apply to a lot of marriages. Two people can come from different environments and mix in fascinating ways. It's a wonderful, magical thing. We've already done so much together, and we're both still so young. It feels like the Enderlin tornado capped off the first chapter of our marriage. I suppose it could be the end of a story. But whose story? Certainly not ours. Look at you being all philosophical. I get what you mean, though. All these emotions coming together, the things we've learned, the experiences we've shared. It feels like it was all written down just for us, and we're just moving through the pages. Well, whatever the case, two things will always remain constant. Our love for each other. And of course, something we've been doing ever since we said our vows. An unspoken rule followed by storm chasers and meteorologists everywhere. Respect the wind. Or, you could ride like the wind to make it to the border of Mexico.